Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody today? The book of the face, the world of the book of the face. Hope everybody's having a great day. Just give a couple of minutes as I sit up, let people get in, and we'll go ahead and start this lesson. How y'all doing? I can't see who it is. The little profiles ain't popping up, but whoever that is that's in here, I appreciate you being here. Just give like one more minute, just a few more seconds, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started because I do have a little bit of a review today, so I'm not gonna give a lot of time. So I'm just gonna grab my charger just in case I get long-winded like I normally do. Find the other piece. There we go. All right. Got that. Give me some of this high quality H2O. All right, so I'm going to get started. How y'all doing today? Miss Alicia, there you go. See your profile now. Miss Alicia, hope you're doing well. I've been praying for you and the family. Hope everything is going well with you down in that part of Tennessee, down there in Dickson, Tennessee. Appreciate everybody being here tonight that's here, whether you're here live or you're watching the video sometime later on. Thank y'all for joining me this Monday night. Last Monday of March. Got to be April, and Easter be right around the corner. Got to go get me an Easter suit. But thank y'all for joining me tonight. I'm Brother John Stewart on behalf of Lost Sheep Ministry, sponsored by River Lake Baptist Church. Here to bring you all the lesson today. If y'all been tuning in to the last couple of weeks, I've been going through the book of Corinthians. It's a lesson I started way back when, like probably a year or so ago. Just going through the book of Corinthians, addressing certain issues that comes up when you try to serve the Lord, certain issues that comes up as church people, not even just dealing more with salvation, but what do you do after the salvation? How do you be? And of course, the title of the lesson has been called "How to Be a Proper Christian." And I've just been going through each chapter, and the reason why I titled it is because, again, this started because if you know the book of Corinthians, you know what happened was Paul started the book of Corinthians, the church in Corinth, and then he left, and then it just kind of got wild, and everybody was kind of just basically doing what they wanted to do, started following like false doctrine and things of that nature, and Paul kind of got wind of it, and he had to send a letter back to kind of correct them. And the first letter he sent was very kind of scalding, and he was getting on them like, I can't believe y'all are doing this foolishness, the stuff that I heard, I can't believe y'all doing kind of thing. I taught you better than that. But then the second letter, which is where we at now, is more about encouraging and uplifting them and encouraging them to go forth, be better, so they can further their relationship with the Lord, kind of thing. So that's where we in when 2 Corinthians, which the rest of the letter be kind of getting into that, telling them how to truly reap the benefit of having that relationship with the Lord. So that's what's been going on for the last couple of weeks, last few weeks. And again, I'm doing this because this is where we at with the Lost Sheep as well, because I do it live with the Lost Sheep every other Tuesday, and then I do it with you guys once we've covered a certain portion. I cover with you guys so we kind of stay caught up. So tonight might be the last day when Corinthians and we finally get back to Samuel. It just depends on how the night goes. I have about 9. I never made it past 5. But I have about 9 points to finish up chapter 2, and then we'll get back into Samuel. So we'll see how it goes tonight. I will try to get through it, but no, of course, I never make any promises. But just to get started, so this is kind of a little preference if you haven't been following along what we've been going through. And of course, I always post the videos on my Facebook page and never delete them. So if you want to go back and watch the older lessons, you can find them there. Or of course, you can always go to my YouTube page. It'll be a lot easier. Scroll up and down because I put the titles in there, basically what we're talking about. And it's a lot easier to find on the YouTube page. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and do the review real quick. And then we're going to jump into the points that we have for tonight. So last week we covered, actually it was like the last 2 points in chapter 1 and then the first 3 points of chapter 2. But I called it just chapter 2 because we spent more time in chapter 2 than in chapter 1. We were kind of finishing up chapter chapter 1, and I didn't want to like have this super long title, so I just called it the first part of chapter 2, because like I said, we spent more time in chapter 2 than we did chapter 1. But so the last part of chapter 1, the last 2 points from chapter 1. Oh, I don't have that open. I can't share that with y'all. My bad. It's in another pad. Let's see if I can find it. My bad. Find it. Oh, I think I got it labeled here. Yep, I do. Got it labeled there. Good job, Pastor John. So the last 2 points for chapter 1 was this. The first one was it was point number 27 in chapter 1, but it was the point number 1 from last week's lesson. And the point was a harsh rebuke can do more bad than good. You know, and I gave example of people arguing, over doctrine over Facebook, and and I gave you example of a lady that I had advised when she was kind of coming down pretty harshly on her children about getting to the Bible and following biblical principles. And I told her the best way to do that is not to come down on them because it's going to push them away, but just to live those principles yourself and let them see that change in you, and then it eventually make a change in them. So, and we saw what Paul was talking about. I wanted to visit y'all, and I really did, but I knew if I came there, it was going to be harsh. And I didn't want to do that. And, and the reason why he didn't want to do that, because he knew he would discourage them, and he didn't want them to be discouraged, which he's going to kind of talk about. Is going to be point 1 from last week, from chapter 2. So one of the last points from chapter 1, number 27, which, like I said, was point 1 last week, was a harsh rebuke can do more bad than good. And then the last point in chapter 1 was everyone has to work out their own salvation. And of course, that don't mean you got to work your way to heaven. What I was saying is everybody have to work on their own relationship with the Lord. Everybody's relationship with the Lord is going to be different. My relationship with the Lord is not going to be the same as your relationship with the Lord. You have to work on your relationship with the Lord. A lot of people serve the Lord different. I kind of talked about how some people to serve the Lord, they speak in tongues, what they call tongues, and I don't. I'm not saying they're wrong and I'm right. I'm not saying I'm right and they're wrong. But I'm saying that as far as their relationship, that's what gives them comfort. That's what they do. That's what they feel they do to get close to the Lord. So that's what they do. I'm not one to say don't speak in tongues, you're wrong, because it don't go with the Bible. I don't believe the way they do it. They don't go with the Bible, so I don't believe in it. But again, that's not how my relationship with the Lord is. I like to talk to the Lord straight and direct and make sure I know exactly what I'm saying, so the Lord will know my heart. And I try my best to pour my heart out to Him. But again, the example, that was just an example that I gave. But everybody has to work on their own relationship with the Lord. Everybody has to. They're going to give an account. We said we all going to stand in front of the Lord. Christians, saved, unsaved, we're all going to stand in front of the Lord someday and give an account for the things that we did in our body. So that's why I can't direct you and tell you to serve the Lord the way I'm serving the Lord, because the way you serve it might be better than the way I'm serving. I can't say but I can say everybody got to have their own personal relationship with the Lord. That's something I teach my kids all the time. Like, y'all can't live off the blessings that I get from serving the Lord. You gotta start serving the Lord to get your own blessings, kind of thing. So that what ended chapter. That was the point that ended chapter 2. Chapter 1, and then it rolled us over into chapter 2, because it's actually the first 2 points of chapter 2 is all part of the same paragraph. It just split it up into the first half of the paragraph ended chapter 1, and the second half of the paragraph began chapter 2. So the first point from chapter 2 was last week, which is it's the first point, was the third point from last week, but the first point in chapter 2 was this: when you encourage others, you yourself will also be encouraged by them. And again, that's what Paul was talking about. That's why I didn't want to come to y'all. I don't want to come and give you a harsh rebuke, because if I did, then you'll be all discouraged. And if I discourage you, then who's going to discourage me? And I kind of use some examples about, like when you're in relationships, if you always beating your partner down, turning them down, then when you need to be built up, who you going to have to build you up, kind of thing. And that's what Paul was saying. Like, I didn't want to come beat y'all down, because I knew when I was down, it was going to be y'all that lift me up. So, when you go out there and you encourage others, a lot of time when you get down, you'll end up in, they'll be the same ones that you encourage will be the one to encourage you. And I gave y'all a couple examples of things that have happened, people that, that when I was down, feeling down and getting the doubt and pouting like I do sometimes, people that will come up and say, hey, thank you for putting those videos out there. They really helped me. Or, thank you for, sharing this word with me. Or thank you for giving me this wisdom. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that. I've had that happen several times, and it always happens at the right moment, right when I need it, when I need some encouragement. So that's why it's always important, especially as a Christian, if you're going to be a Christian, to make sure that you're encouraging those in your world. Because when you go forth and it's the Bible say, you reap what you sow. kind of thing. So when you go forth, putting that encouragement out there, the moment you need that encouragement, it will be there for you. Same way you go forth, blessing others, the moment you need those blessings, it'll be there for you. And sometimes it'll be the very same people that you bless or encourage that do the same blessing and encouraging to you. So that's what Paul was talking about. That's why he said, I don't want to come to y'all with a harsh rebuke, because then I'll make you, then you'll be discouraged. And then when I need encouragement, I won't have it. So number one from last week, number 1 point from chapter 2 is when you encourage others, you yourself will also be encouraged. Number 2 from last week, it says number 2. The point from last week with number 2 was point number 2 from chapter 2 is, if you truly love someone, the pain of the truth will not stop you from giving it to them. And I talked about how, that's what's wrong in our society now. Nobody is willing to step up when somebody's doing wrong, when somebody have a wrong way of thinking, especially if it's going against the Bible. Everybody's scared to step up and say, hey, that's wrong. And I think I talked about the whole big homosexuality movement and the transgender movement, all that stuff. And there's nobody's willing to confront them and just say, hey, that's not right. What you're doing is not right. Nobody's willing to step up and say those things. So these people just going and they just keep getting honestly more and more outraged. The more the days go by, the more outrageous they get, the more rights and things that they're demanding, that even, just regular people that are living their life and doing what they're supposed to be doing don't even have. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's all because nobody's willing to tell them the truth. And it shows you that we don't really love these people. We want really to love them. We would say, hey, we think you have a problem. We think, maybe a mental problem, whatever, but something is wrong. Let's get you some help. Instead, it's wrong, it's right, it's natural. Just because we don't want to step outside the status quo, we don't want to get blackballed. We don't want to, people to stop talking to us or whatever. We don't want to get labeled as a homophobe or transphobic. I don't care what you label me. If it's in the Bible and it's truth, I'm gonna give you the truth, and that's just bottom line. It's not gonna do me no good. It's not going to do you no good to listen to me if I'm not telling you the truth. And it's not going to do me no good spending all this time putting these lessons together and trying to teach you if I'm not going to tell you the truth. The truth is essential. Yes, it hurts sometimes. Somebody tell me, hey, you a big, black, ugly, bald-headed dude. That hurts, but it's the truth. There ain't nothing I can do about it. Just accept it, see if I can, try to do something to change myself. But that's about it. The truth is needed. So that way that people can see if they're going in the wrong area and they need to correct themselves, and they can do that. But if you never tell them the truth, they might never truly know. You might think, oh, well, they know they doing it wrong. No, they might never truly know. You might need to just point out it might just take you pointing out before they realize, hey, I've messed up. I'm going the wrong way. Let me change my ways. So, and if you truly love somebody, you see them going in the wrong direction, even though it might hurt, especially women, you see them dating a guy, and this guy's no good. You got to let them know, or vice versa. Vice versa. If you see a man dating a girl, your boy, hey man, that she ain't no good. She been around the block. Let your boy know. You know what I'm saying, kind of thing. I'm not trying to get back into the point, but we actually had this. I actually thinking about that, and I don't think I brought this up last week, but I actually had a situation in college where that happened. There was this girl, one of our close friends that was in like our inner clique, so to speak. He had transferred from another school and started dating this girl. And this girl, like the year before, she had basically made like this sex tape and with 7 or 8 guys, you know what I'm saying? And I had a tape and it just circled around the whole old campus. And of course, this guy, he moved in and he didn't know about it, and we didn't realize that he had started dating the girl, and he was falling in love and stuff. And we hey, and we had to tell him hey man, she might have changed or whatever, but just to let you know, this is out here, and I just so happen to know one of the guys that was in the tape, and I got the tape from him and showed it to my buddy, kind of thing. And I man, look, and it was so weird. I ain't gonna say weird. It was so awkward and hard to do because I know he cared for this girl or whatnot. But at the same time, I wanted to let him know what he was kind of getting himself into, and it was hard to do because we man, we don't want this dude to go crazy and beat her up or something. Now, he wasn't a violent dude, but we just don't know. You see something like that, you've been with somebody and start to give your heart to somebody, and you see some stuff like that, you know what a man would do. So, so it was a hard thing to do, but it was necessary so he can know what he was getting into, so he can see kind of the path that he was on. I don't know if she still did. I didn't know the girl personally, so I don't know if she was still doing that, living that life, doing those kind of things. But I did want to warn my buddy. I knew him and I cared about him, so I had to tell him that hard truth. Hey, your girl basically was in a porno last year, and several guys on campus and had her. and so you might want to watch yourself, kind of thing. So again, it's a hard situation to be in. You hate to do it, but if you see somebody going down a path and that's going to do something that's detrimental to their health or their well-being, if you really love them, you would tell them the truth, even though it might hurt them and hurt you to have to do it. So that was number 2, point number 2 for chapter 2. And then the last point that we covered last week was point number 3 from chapter 2. And it says, I'm not overstating it when I say that the man who caused all the trouble hurt your entire church more than he hurt me. So number 3 from last week was, try not to be a hindrance to the growth of others. Others are affected by your behavior. So if you are causing problems in the church, you could be causing problems that would keep others from growing. So again, that what Paul was telling them, like, he hurt y'all because, we see that a lot, especially when you take on this mantle of Christian. When you take on that mantle of Christian, you quick to say, oh, well, I'm a Christian. Then you got to understand what they come with. You got to understand that now you're representing not only Jesus, but you represent all the other Christians in the world. So if you out here and you're getting drunk and beating on your woman, I know so many, I think I shared that with you, I know so many people that are not saved because of what things that they saw other Christians do. People that claim to be Christians do. Guys that they claim to be deacons, that were deacons in the church, saw what they did, how they lived in hypocrisy. So you got to be careful when you take on that mantle of Christian, because all of a sudden now you represent all Christians, because especially to somebody that don't maybe know a lot of Christians, or somebody that's on the fence. If they on the fence and they see you acting a fool and you supposed to be a Christian and you out here acting a fool wilding out, then they're gonna be like, man, I don't want no part of that. Or, what I'm saying, they might, got saved and start going to church, and then they see the way you behaving on, they see you at the club acting a fool Saturday night, and then you in church Sunday morning, all holier than thou. Then they might get them out of church like, oh, these people are hypocrites, and they might not be able to grow. So you got to understand, once you take on that mantle and you say you're a Christian, you take on that mantle, like me taking on the mantle of being a pastor, minister, I have to watch my actions. I have to watch what I do. I can no longer live in the flesh, and I got to try to do my best to live in the spirit. And of course, yes, I fail all the time. I make mistakes, kind of thing. I'm not perfect by no means, but I do make a valiant effort to go out and live my life the way the Lord, that will be a true representative of what the Lord will want for us to live, the way to be a proper Christian, so to speak. Again, not perfect, mess up all the time, but I do put effort to doing that. And we should all, once you take up that mantle, you should all do the same thing. Put a valiant effort to living your life a different way, so the Lord people will be able to see the Lord through you. So again, that was where we finished up last week. That was point number 3 for chapter 2, is where we finished up last week. So we're going to start on point number 4, which is going to be in verse, so let me take my spectacles off. Sometimes hard to read the thing. Verse, I think it's 5. Yeah, the verse 6 is where we're going to start. So if you got your Bible, you follow along. We're going to be in 2 Corinthians chapter 2. We're going to start at verse 6. So I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then we'll get started. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us today. Thank you for keeping us all safe as we went about the day. Thank you for letting us have a good, safe work day for those of us that went out to work and was able to make it back home safely. Thank you for definitely keeping me safe. I got a pretty dangerous job, so it ain't always guaranteed I'm make it home every day. But so far for these little over 9 years, you've been allowing me to make it back home in the same condition I went to work in, and I'm so grateful for it. So I just thank you so much for now that the day is over, the work day is over. Now it's time to get into your word, Lord. And I thank you for this opportunity you've given us to get into your word. I thank you for giving me this wisdom from the reading of my Bible and just spending time with you, so I can put these lessons together, Lord. And I pray that as we go through this lesson tonight, that your spirit, you send your spirit down upon my heart and my mind, that get me in the mindset, get me ready to share this gospel and this words of encouragement with your people. And I pray you also send your spirit down upon the hearts and mind of those that are listening, Lord, and give them the want to receive this wisdom. I can put the wisdom out there all day, but if they don't receive it or take heed to it, or let it go into their heart so it can make a change to them, then it's not going to do any good. They say you can show a horse the water, but you can't make him drink. So I pray that not only do I show them the water today, Lord, but I pray you'll be give them the willingness to take a sip from it. You'll send your spirit down upon us as always as we go through this session. Let your spirit guide this session. Give me the words I need to say to help others build a relationship with you and become a proper Christian. Just watch over us as we go through this lesson tonight. Guide our hearts and our minds and our steps. Guide this lesson so you may be honored and glorified through the work that we do here today. and we may all be better Christians and closer to you because of our time spent here today in your word. We love you and thank you for all you've done and given. Say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Chris, what's going on, man? I see you here. I appreciate you being here, brother. I apologize for missing y'all last week. You know, I had my car break down. I was on my way to pick everybody up and truck broke down. But, you know, God willing, next week I will be back. We will be back in full swing. But I do hate I missed y'all last week. So with that being said, again, we're going to be in 2 Corinthians chapter 2. We're going to start in verse 6. And as always, I always like to announce, I am reading out the New Living Translation. So if you do got your Bible, you're trying to follow along, like, hey, my Bible don't say that. Reading out the New Living Translation. I am a King James believer wholeheartedly, but I read out the New Living Translation for the Lost Sheep Ministry because a lot of my people that I deal with, you know, they're the hustlers, you know, pimps and drug dealers and things of that nature. That was their past, and they're trying to improve. So, you know, they might not understand the Bible the way I do because I've spent time in it. So I always read out the New Living Translation just because it puts it in plain English, but I always read both versions. And if there is something in the King James that I need to point out, I will do so. Which I think I got like 1 or 2 things in within these last few points where I got King James version, so I will read both of them. But not being a heretic, believe in the King James version, I just read out New Living Translation to make it easier, and I don't have to talk as much because y'all know I definitely love to talk. So with that being said, again, I'm going to start off. So like I said, number 3 was try not to be a hindrance to the growth of others. And we're going to start there because these kind of these lines, it kind of rolled into number 4. So he starts, so I'm actually going to start reading verse 5 and then go down through verse 6, 7, and 8. So he says, so again, he ended with point number 3 where he says, I am not overstating it when I say that the man who caused all the trouble hurt your entire church more than he hurt me. Then the next line he says, now he was punished enough when most of you were united in your judgment against him. Now it is time to forgive him and comfort him. Otherwise, he may become so discouraged that he won't be able to recover. Now show him that you still love him. That is vital. That is vital for us Christians. You know, they got a saying. They say that the Christian army is the only army, The Christian army is the only army that kills its own wounded. You know, and what it's saying. In other words, when somebody make a mistake, as Christians, we have a tendency, even though we've been forgiven, you know, 1,000,000 times over. But when somebody else make a mistake, it could have been a mistake that we actually made back in the past, but we maybe no longer go down that road. But we have a tendency of just beating that person up about their mistake. That mistake becomes who that person is. You know, and that's what he's saying. He said, you know, yes, he made a mistake. And again, I don't remember the details of it, but I think this guy was having a sexual relationship with either his mother-in-law or his daughter-in-law. I believe it was, but he was having a sexual relationship with somebody close in his family, and it was like a public thing. Like it was one of those things. It wasn't even like they were sneaking around and somebody found out about it. Like everybody knew about it, kind of thing. And they was you know, almost proud of it. And, you know, and then when Paul kind of got on him, like, y'all out here with all the spiritual pride, and you got this kind of thing going on in your church kind of thing. So he really got on them by allowing that to happen, and nobody doing anything and saying anything to him to correct him. Like we were talking about earlier, nobody willing to tell him the truth. Like, hey, that's wrong. That's not something you need to be doing. You know, but, you know, so eventually, you know, of course, he wrote the first letter, and I guess they made that correction. They came together in judgment on the guy and pronounced a sentence. I don't know what the punishment was or whatever it was, but, you know, he said, you know, he had been punished enough when most of you were united against your judgment. Now it is time to forgive him and comfort him. In other words, he may become so discouraged that he won't be able to recover. Now show him that you still love him. So number four for chapter number 2 is going to be this. Don't hold someone's mistake against them long term. Don't hold someone's mistake against them long term. Now but here's the key. He said once they acknowledge their mistake and are truly repentant, that's the thing. Once they acknowledge it and they are truly repentant, forgive them as God forgives you. Now that's the key though. They have to be truly repentant. You can tell if someone's acknowledge their mistake and they're truly sorry about it. They truly sorry, man, I made a mistake. You know, you can tell that 9 times out of 10 if they're going to do it again, or if they've learned their lesson, or if they're going to do it again. You know, if they're going to be a repeat offender. But if you can tell that they acknowledged it, first of all, they acknowledge, because sometimes with people, they're not even willing to acknowledge their mistakes. So if they're not even willing to acknowledge, then you can best believe they're going to do it again. You know, like a lot of times, people that are addicted to drugs or alcohol, a lot of times they won't even acknowledge that they're an alcoholic or they're a drug addict. You know, it take people doing interventions, and it take them basically losing everything and losing everyone around them before they finally realize, like, oh, maybe I do have a problem. You know, it takes them hitting that rock, what they call rock bottom, before they really realize they have a problem. Now, if that's what's going on, if they're still not facing up, they still not, and I'm sorry, y'all, about my voice. I don't know, it's been going in and out, been a little scratchy. I'm not sick or anything, it's just been a little scratchy here. I'm not sick or anything. It's been a little scratchy, so I apologize if it go up and down and it give you that little weird hoarse sound. I do apologize about that. But again, you know, if they're still not acknowledging what they're doing, they're not acknowledging the fact that what they're doing is wrong, and they're not repenting of it, then yes, you know, you have the right to keep on, you know what I'm saying, not judging them, but letting them know, like, hey, you know what I'm saying, this person, this is the type of person he is, you know, watch yourself around him, you know, kind of thing. But if they've acknowledged, hey, what I did was wrong, the way I was living was wrong, you know, when I look at my past, you know, I acknowledge the way Lord, the way I was living was wrong, it was against you. You know, it was not the things that you would have me to do. I was truly repenting of it, and the Lord forgave me for it. We have to do the same thing with people, because if we don't, they might get so discouraged that they, you know what I'm saying, that they won't be able to recover from that. So, you know, don't hold it against them long term. Once they, like I said, once they acknowledged it, and like I said, they acknowledge it, you know, because a lot of people, especially these days, they really don't want to take the blame. No, I don't want to say the blame. They want to take the word I'm looking for is accountability. They don't want to take accountability for their actions. You know, it's somebody else's fault. Oh, I'm black and the white man holding me down, and that's why I'm doing all this stuff. You know, my mama didn't like me, or my dad didn't like this, why I'm doing all this stuff. Oh, I had a rough life, I'm doing all this stuff. You know, sometimes, yes, your environment can improve, you can have a effect on the situation, but a lot of times, once you get past out of that situation, then you have to decide if you're gonna keep on going down that road, or you're gonna do something different. You know, you got to acknowledge you got to be accountable for your actions. You can't be yes, your dad did this, your mom did this, you know, the government did this. Yes, that stuff happened, but we're past that now. Now, what are you going to do with it? You know what I'm saying? Are you going to use that to keep on acting a fool? Or are you going to use that, understand that you're out of it, and make decisions to be a better person? And a lot of times people won't even acknowledge that, hey, I'm just being a jerk. You know, I need to change my ways. It's not that people that mess me over. It's just that I need to change my ways. I'm really living the way I want to live. But so that's why I say, that's why it's so important to understand that once they acknowledge, like and Paul was saying, this guy, he's sorry. He realized he messed up. He realized the damage that he's done to the church. He realized, you know, how bad he made Christians look. He realized how bad he made the church look. Realized now that he's hurt other people kept other people from growing. He understands this. He's repentant of it. Bring him back in. Bring him back, because the thing is, if you're always judging someone for their past mistakes, it might discourage them from having a relationship with the Lord in the future. Now, if you always judge someone for their past mistakes, it might discourage them from having a relationship with the Lord in the future. You know, I do a lot of drug counseling kind of thing. I do a lot of drug counseling. Once a week, I do drug counseling at this rehab center over in Camden, close to where we live at. And, you know, and that's one of the things the guys are always worried about, especially when they really made that change. They're like, man, you know, people still look at me like if I go around, they still don't want to be around me. You know, they still don't want to give me a chance, you know, kind of thing. And if you've really changed and you've changed your heart and you're really trying to do better, but yet people still don't seem to want to give you a chance, that can be discouraging. It'll make you like, well, why even try? If no matter what I do, I'm still going to be this, you know what I'm saying? I'm still going to be Ricky the drug addict. No matter what I'm doing, I'm still going to be Ricky the drug addict. Then I might well just, you know, go back to being a drug addict. That's what I'm going to be called anyway. So that's why I say, if you see they make it, and I always tell the guy, like, man, look, keep going forward, keep doing what you're doing. Don't let it discourage you. Don't turn back to your old ways because nobody's acknowledging your new ways. I said, don't do that. I'm like, that's what the devil wants you to do. I said, but if you go, I said, but you got to understand, though, and now I do, again, I call them into accountability. You know, because most of these guys, that are in where I'm at, in this rehab, they did some bad stuff. A lot of them was like in prison, and you know what I'm saying, they had the option, and it was in prison because of drug uses or drug what they were doing, some drug related. So they was given the option either serving a prison sentence or go to this rehab. And some of them, they go just to get out of the prison sentence, but some of them, they go because they really want to change. Matter of fact, the last two I've had seem like they really want to change. But the first one definitely, and I got a new guy I just started with a few weeks, but he do seem like he really want to change. I mean, he said several times, like, man, I cannot go back to that lifestyle. You know, matter of fact, he's from Knoxville, and he ended up in Camden by mistake. And he's like, man, I'm so glad God sent me here, because I know if I stayed in Knoxville, I would just stayed in the same stuff. He's like, I cannot go back to that. So he's truly repenting. And, you know, he worried like, man, I would love to get a girl. I was so bad with women, and I did so much stuff. And he's worried about being able to you know, now that he's made the change, being able to get a woman, and he actually want to be a family man. He wants to be a dad and things of that nature, but he's afraid nobody will give him a chance. So he already have that fear there, that nobody will really give him a chance. So then, if you know you're supposed to be Christian and forgiving, and every time he come around, you still beat him over his head about, you remember when you did this, you remember when you did that, then eventually he will get discouraged and go back to his old ways. And that's what Paul's saying, like, look, y'all punished him enough. Y'all came together. Y'all kind of ousted him in the church. Y'all brought up the issue in the church. You came together. Now, you know, you punished him. I know he's repenting. And I know he's acknowledging. Bring him out again. Let him know you still love him. Matter of fact, let him know the reason why you did what you did was because because you really love him. You know what I'm saying? Don't just cast them out like that's what you are. You know, that's what you're gonna always be. Because that's what a lot of people do. Oh, once it is, a tiger don't change his stripes. Once this, always this. No, and that's true unless God gets involved. And see, that's what you can look at to see if they truly are repenting, if they truly had that change of heart. Look at their relationship with the Lord. How did they change? How did things change? Because most people with this in like addiction, whether drugs, alcohol, or whatever, most of them don't really take their relationship with the Lord serious. Now some do, you know, there's always exception, but most of them, when they're in their addiction, they do not take the Lord serious. They don't take the authority that the Lord has given, granted the people over them serious. So see, do they change that? And that's why I would tell them, like, when people start really seeing your change, when they really see you and really see you change, you won't be able to say it. It's not that you can tell them. They'll just know. They'll know by the way you do things. You know, normally, if somebody told you to do this, you'd be like, heck no. Especially dealing with the police or something like this, some authority figure tell you to do this, you'd be like, heck no. But now they see when somebody tell you to do something and you go ahead and you obey their command, they're like, oh, this is different. Normally he's a rebel and now he's changed, kind of thing. I mean, how many of y'all, and I know this happening, you go into a church, especially if it's somebody, a church where people actually know you, and you trying to change your ways. And you're trying to change your ways, and you go into the church, and people look at you side-eyed, look at you funny, make you uncomfortable being there because all the looks and the stares you're getting. Maybe you're doing your adventurous youth. You got some tattoos on your face, or you got some tattoos on your neck, or you got tattoos and stuff all down your arm, and now you realize that was a mistake, but you can't. It's too late. You already got them. And you want to go to church and be in a relationship with the Lord, but yet people start looking at you funny, looking at you sideways because you walking in and you got tats and all that stuff all over your face and all your neck. See, stuff like that can be discouraging, and that happens to a lot of people, and you can't do that. If we're Christians, we can't hold somebody pass against them. Now again, if they come in, they pants hanging on, and they still talking loud, and you hear them cursing, you can tell they really ain't had no change of heart. They really not repenting. They just maybe doing something to impress somebody. That's one thing. But if people are truly repenting, if you see that, man, they've humbled themselves, they've acknowledged, they've taken accountability for their action, they've acknowledged what they've done, and they're truly repenting, then you need to let that go. Because some I've realized, and I read a book on soul winning, because y'all know I'm always talking about soul winning, but some I realized just from experience and from the books I read, like the hardest thing to do, one of the hardest things to do is to lead somebody to the Lord that really knows you, like a close relative or a close friend or something, especially after you made your change. And if you used to be like a bad person, like I said, back in the day, I wasn't really a bad person, but I did some bad things, I did sell drugs for a while and, carouse with women and things of that nature. So when somebody that I was doing those things with, I was living in life with, talking to them, it's awkward. It's hard to do because they're still looking like, hold on, you the dude that used to, you used to do this. You know what I'm saying? How you gonna come to me telling me I need to make a change or telling me about Jesus Christ when I've seen you basically be the son of the devil kind of thing. I've seen you in action. So how is it you coming to me talking about, to change your heart and God and things like that? It's very hard to do. It's very awkward to do. Because you think about it with Jesus, and not that Jesus was bad, but you remember when Jesus went to Nazareth, he couldn't even really do any miracles because nobody there really believed him because everybody felt they knew him. You know what I'm saying? Oh, this is just Joseph's son, the carpenter's son. It's just Joseph. Who is he? How is he the Messiah? He's just Joseph's son. See, they felt they knew him. Not that he lived a bad life and he was a bad kid because they said he lived a perfect life, but the fact that they knew him and they were familiar with him, it was hard for him to get the gospel to them. And it's the same way with soul winning. Like I can go to a complete total stranger and share the gospel, man. I mean, it'd be like on and popping. But I go to one of my family members, one of my close, because I have several very close friends. Matter of fact, I was hanging out with one this weekend. Very close friends, people that I love dearly that are not saved. A couple of them are atheists. They believe in one guy said he believed in science, and one guy said he just don't believe in nothing. Love them to death, but it's hard for me to really witness to them because, like I said, they knew me back in my bad days, so to speak. So it's a very hard thing to do. And in that situation, they're kind of still judging me from my past and not looking at my future. And we have a tendency to do that same thing. We judge people by their past. And if you keep doing that, people are going to stop trying. No, yes, I had a bad past. Yes, I did some stuff I wasn't supposed to. Yes, I caroused some women. Yes, I tried some drugs. Yes, I drank this alcohol. Yes, I did this. Yes, I maybe, but you can't keep judging them by it. And society is really bad on that. They're really bad about that. You make a mistake, man, you never forget it. They never let you forget it. Somebody always going to want to bring it up and throw it back in your face. So you have to really be careful with that, especially when you call yourself a Christian. If somebody is really trying to make that change, they're trying to change their life, they're trying to be a better person, and they're trying to get closer to the Lord, and you see they've, again, taken accountability, acknowledge the wrong in what they did, and really trying to make that change, then you need to acknowledge that and forgive them for it. But like I said, if every time they go to church, they get the side eye, they get the bad, the evil look, the stares, every time they talking to you, you always bring up the old stuff they used to do, then guess what? Eventually they're going to get tired of trying, and they just going to go back to their old ways because that's all you ever saw them as anyway. You only ever saw them as a drug addict, so they might well just become a drug addict. You only ever saw them as an alcoholic, so they might well just go ahead and be an alcoholic because everybody going to see them anyway. So it can really be discouraging if you're not forgiven. And see, if God did us the same way, then where would we be at? And he don't. He doesn't. So just like, that's why a Christian is called Christ-like one. That's why we call Christian, because we're supposed to be like Christ. And Christ don't throw up our sin every time we go in prayer. Every time we step out of line, he ain't throwing by. You remember you used to do that? No. What did he say? He said, your sins are far away from me as the east is from the west. So we should do the same. Now, again, once they're truly repentant, and once they acknowledge what they've done and they're truly repentant, yes, then you can let that go and work toward them having a better future. Because if you don't, it might discourage them. If you keep on judging them on their past, it might discourage them from having a relationship with the Lord in the future. So number 4, don't keep, I've changed the page. So number 4 in chapter 2, the point is don't hold someone's mistake against them long term. Once they acknowledge their mistake and are truly repentant, forgive them as God forgives you. And that's what Paul is saying here. He's like, y'all already punched him enough. Everybody turned their back on him. Everybody came up against him. That y'all already punched him enough. Bring him back in so he'll know you love him. So he won't be discouraged and he won't go the wrong way. So then in verse 9 he says, now I wrote you as I did to find out how far you would go in obeying me. So number 5, this is something I've talked to y'all before, but you got to realize this as a Christian. Once you take that you pray and you ask the Lord to save your soul, you make that decision. That doesn't mean, all right, now I'm done, I'm good, I can live the way I want to. No, you're going to be tested every single day. Every single day of your life, you're going to be tested, because every single day of your life, as long as you live in that flesh, this flesh is always going to want you to do fleshly things, which is against the word of God. So you got to realize you're always going to be tested. So number 5 is this: don't forget that your obedience is always being tested. Don't ever forget that as a Christian. You're always being tested. Your obedience is always going to be tested. Every day you wake up, you have to choose if you're going to obey God's will for your life or you're going to do your own thing. And y'all have heard me say this several times before, but it came up here because Paul was saying, like, I wrote you that first letter and I told y'all that to cast him out and, and punish him. And I want to see, because again, they had been allowing this to go on for a while. It had been a while and it was open. Everybody knew what this dude was doing. And the church people knew it, and they wasn't doing anything about it. They weren't doing anything to try to correct this man. So he wanted to see, once he said something about it, once he called them on it, were they going to listen to him, and was they going to do the things that he told them to do, and punish this guy. And I think that he told them like to kick him out for a little while, kind of exile him out the church. But now he's saying bring him back in, kind of thing. Kind of thing. And he said, I told y'all that because I want to see how, I wrote y'all that in the letter, that I want to see how far you can go in obeying. What you going to do what I said do, or what you going to just keep on allowing this foolishness that go on in your church, and you sitting there with this spiritual pride when really you don't have no room for it. So that's what he said. So you got to remember that God is always testing us. He's always testing us. Like I said, every day you get up, you have to decide, are you going to do what you want to do, or are you going to do what God wants you to do? That's why I've told y'all before, I pray when I get up in the morning, when I open my eyes in the morning, every once in a while, especially if I wake up late or something like that, I might forget. I'm not perfect, but I always try to pray, Lord, please guide my steps in my heart to help me get everything done I need to get done and get everywhere I need to be according to your will for my life for this day. That's something I pray every morning. Lord, take control of my life. I know I got certain places I want to go. I got certain things that I want to do. But I need you to guide me in the direction. If that's not where you want me at, then I don't want to be there. Give God control of your life, because you're going to be tested every single day. Every day of your life, you have to make the decision. Am I going to do what I want to do? Or am I going to do what God want me to do? It's always tested. And we got, so many examples of that. Think about Abraham. There's one of the ones that got wrote down. It said the Lord told him, he had a son, his favorite son. Like he had another son, Ishmael, which was not the son of promise. That was something that was done from a fleshly matter and not a spiritual matter like it's supposed to be. But then he had his son Isaac, which was the son of promise, the one that God had told him, this is the seed that, all these promises I've made you, all these things that I told you about as far as giving you this land, as far as multiplying your nation, and as far as you having descendants as many as the sand on the sea and the stars in the sky. This is the one that's all that's going to come through. He said, but I want you to go up there and I want you to go kill him. I want you to sacrifice him. And of course, in of us are like, man, what are you talking about? You just told me that, that this is the one that the promise gonna come to. How are you gonna tell me to kill him? But he had enough faith in God, and he had enough obedience to when God said do it, he went to do it. Matter of fact, it's a movie coming out. I want to see it on Angel Studios. I watch a lot of. If y'all don't have Angel Studios, y'all need it. It's a free app on your phone. Get it. That show, The Chosen. You can watch that show through Angel Studios. They got several other movies. That Jesus Revolution movie that just came out recently. I think that was kind of through Angel Studios. Good movies, and they got one coming out. I think it's in the end of this month. It's called His Only Son. And that's exactly what it's talking about. It's talking about the situation with Abraham and Isaac, when Abraham about to go and sacrifice Isaac. It looked like it's going to be a good movie. Can't wait till it come out. Definitely going to go see it. But the Lord was testing his obedience. He wanted to see if he was going to do it, because he knew how much he loved Isaac. And what did Jesus say? When Jesus came, what did Jesus say? He said, if you put your father or your mother or your daughter, your son, or anybody or anything before me, then you're not worthy of following me. And the Lord was making Abraham this huge promise that he was going to make him this great nation, that even his son was going to be born through this nation. That's a huge thing. You're going to always have a king. The God man himself is going to come from your loins, basically. He wanted to make sure this dude was legit. He wanted to make sure this dude was going to do exactly what he told him to do. He really, honestly, he should have knew that Abraham going to be obedient when the Lord told him to go and circumcise himself. Man, I'm so glad I got circumcised when I was a baby, so I don't remember that. I cannot imagine being circumcised as a grown man. And not only was he a grown man, he was like 80, 90 when he got circumcised. I cannot imagine that. The pain having to, oh my goodness, I'm cringing just thinking about it. I cannot imagine getting circumcised as an adult male. But he told Abraham to do it, and Abraham did it. But he told Abraham also to go and sacrifice his son. Abraham did it. He was going to do it, you know. And what did he say? And Abraham would get ready to say, he was getting ready to plunge the knife down, and those said, Abraham, Abraham. I was just testing, you know. I was just testing to make sure that you know you was gonna do what I said do, you know. And now I see that you won't hold nothing from me. I see you are completely obedient. You know, now you're going to get all these promises. You're going to get all these blessings that I promised you that I was going to give your people and I was going to give to you. You're going to get the land. You're going to get all that, man. Just don't kill your son. Like, put the knife down kind of thing. But that's how obedient he was, and he was being tested. You know, now had he been like, please, Lord, don't take my son. It's my favorite one, blah, blah, blah. Then he might not have ever got those blessings that the Lord be like, hey, he really ain't worthy because he's putting the love of his son over me. So you're always being tested. The Lord's going to test you every day to see, are you going to give into the world when the world comes beckoning to you? Are you going to give into the world, or are you going to do the things that you know you're supposed to be doing? Excuse me, I'm drunk too much water now. Well, are you going to do the things that you know you're supposed to be doing? And most of us give into the world because we want to be loved. We want to be accepted. We want to, you know, we don't want them to call us the weirdos. We don't want us to call us. Most people don't go out soul winning and knock on doors because we don't want to be called fanatics. We don't want to be that weird dude. You know, I've told y'all before, I used to be the life of the party. Every time somebody had a get-together party, I got invited. I don't get invited like I used to no more. You know, it don't. And people don't want to be around me because I be on some other stuff. I'm not on the same stuff they're on. Not that I'm better than them or, you know what I'm saying, I'm perfect now so I can't hang with them. They just don't want to be around me because I think I saw this one meme, like most people don't want to be around you because your spirit irritate their demons kind of thing. And I'm not saying they're bad and I'm good. I'm just saying there's a reason why they don't want me around kind of thing. So you got to understand that, you know, your obedience is always going to be tested. Every day you wake up, you're going to make that decision. You know, am I going to do what I want to do? I've told people so many times, you know, life is simple. That's one of the main things that I preach to people. I try to teach people. Y'all have heard me say this several times. Life is simple. Every decision you make is either doing what you know you're supposed to be doing or doing what you want to do. And if you're doing what you know you're supposed to be doing, then 9 times out of 10 it's going to put you in line with God's will. And if you're doing what you want to do, then 9 times out of 10 it's going to put you out of line of God's will. You know, if you follow your own will, you can't follow your own will and God's will at the same time. It don't happen like that. You got to choose one or the other. And God is always testing your obedience. Same thing he did with Joseph. You know what I'm saying? He did with Joseph. Joseph had all these dreams that he was going to be like in this great position. You know, he's going to be this great position. And either his brothers and his mom and dad is going to come and bow down to him. And he didn't know how, but God gave him these dreams. And he knew they were from God. You know, he shared it with his brothers. His brothers hated on him. You know, shared it with his dad and his brothers. His brothers hated on him, sold him to slavery. You know, obedience being tested. Now, is Joe's going to get all sour and sad sack and you know, turn his back on God? Nope. He became a slave. He ended up being one of the best slaves there was. You know, then after he was a slave for a little while, his master's wife tried to hook up with him. You know, lied and said she tried to rape him. He tried to rape her, and then he got thrown in prison. You know, and did he get all up sad sack and all woe was me? No, he just became the best prisoner there was. And eventually, because he was obedient, and this went on for years. Now, Abraham had this one little test here that he did, but what Joseph went through, he went through that for years. And he went through that for years, but at the end of those years, I don't know exactly how many it was. I think it was somewhere between like 5 and initially it was 5 or 10 years, but I know he was in Egypt for like 20 years before his brothers came looking for grain or whatever. But I mean, he was there for a while, but his faith never wavered, and he was always obedient. Whatever he was tasked with doing, he did it, and he did it to the best of his ability, and he praised God the whole time he was doing it. It was tested, and he got the blessing. He ended up becoming, yes, it took him a few years, but he did end up becoming the second most powerful man in the world at that time. He did end up becoming a person that was in a position to save his family because of his faithfulness, because he did what he was supposed to do, because he stayed obedient. You see what I'm saying? So you got to understand, it's very important. Another situation we saw with Abraham and Joseph, where they passed their obedience test, but then we also see what happens when you don't pass your obedience test. When we look at the Israelites, y'all remember when the Israelites was first coming into the Promised Land after they went through the whole thing with Egypt and everything, and you know they had to walk around the wilderness for 40 years, and then finally when it's time for them to go into the Promised Land, what did the Lord tell them? He said, "Go in, kill everybody and everything." You know what I'm saying? Don't keep nothing. Everybody got to go. And I know people like, oh, I can't believe God did that. You just don't understand what the kind of things those people were doing at the time. Matter of fact, the kind of stuff those people were doing, we're doing it today in America. So we better, you know what I'm saying, y'all better be praying that America turn its heart back, because some of the same thing that those people were doing, that we're doing in America. They was sacrificing kids. They was raping kids. They was doing all kind of, you know what I'm saying, just a lot of pagan evil stuff, worshiping devils and demons and things like that. And the Lord wanted to clear the land because there was some evil people doing evil things, and we doing the same thing in America today. But he told the Israelites, when you go in, don't make friends with nobody, don't make treaties with nobody. Everybody got to go clean. I want this land clean, you know, and everything. And what did the Israelites do? Went in, started making treaties. You know what I'm saying? They might have captured a town, and instead of killing all the people like they were supposed to, they made them their slaves. God didn't tell them to make anybody slaves. He didn't tell them. You know, matter of fact, you remember Saul, same situation with Saul. When Saul first became king, the Lord told him to go and kill all the Amalekites. He said, kill all the Amalekites, you know, every single one. He said, burn all their stuff, burn all the animals, you know, don't keep none of the animals, nothing. He said, just basically destroy them, destroy everything, and that's it. And when Saul went in there, what did Saul do? He went in and killed everybody except the king. You know, he killed all the animals except for the good ones, kept them for themselves. And what happened? The prophet came and denounced them. And the Lord said, you know, I'm sorry I ever made you king. And he ended up taking the spirit from Saul and putting it on David. Why? Because he was disobedient. See, he was testing his obedience. See, he was about to make him king. He was the first king, the first official king of Israel. There was actually a king before him, but he wasn't an official king. But he was the first official king of Israel. You know, so the Lord put him to a test. See, is he going to do what he was supposed to do? And he not only did he disobey him in that, he also, at one point, he made a sacrifice that he wasn't supposed to make. So he was very disobedient, and therefore he lost the blessings of God on his life. See, obedience is key. If you really want the blessings of God in your life, it starts with obedience. You know, what did Jesus say? He said, any man that obeys my commands is my friend. He said, any man that obeys my command, love me. If you want the Lord to know that you love him, and if you want to be God's friend, then obey his commands. Do the stuff that you know you're supposed to be doing. Go to places you know you're supposed to be going. Stay away from the places you know you're not supposed to be going. Stop doing the things you know you're not supposed to be doing. That shows the Lord that you're willing to be obedient. That shows the Lord you really love him and you're willing to obey his commands. And see, they didn't do that. You know, they didn't do that. The Israelites didn't do that. They don't obey his commands. Saul didn't do it. He didn't obey his commands, and they end up losing the blessing that God had for them because they were disobedient. So obedience is I remember I did a lesson a little while back. Well, it was a while back, but if you want to go down my YouTube page and catch it, it was called The Blessings of Obedience, and I think it was The Blessings of Obedience, and then I did another one. I think it was what was it? The Results of Disobedience. I believe that's what it was. But I know it was The Blessings of Obedience, and I think the lesson I did on disobedience was the results of disobedience. But we saw when people obeyed the Lord, did exactly what the Lord told them to do, the blessings poured. You know what I'm saying? They came out, you know, they had God's grace in their life. But when they was rebellious and they did what they wanted to do instead of what God told them to do, they always found problems. They always was in problems. They was always in trouble. There was always some kind of chaos going on in their life. So we got to understand, obedience is the key to having that. If you really want to have a good, close relationship with the Lord, then you're going to have to learn how to be obedient. You know what I'm saying? Because it's always being tested. And we got another one more situation. One more situation, and I think I talked about this before. There was a guy where he almost lost his blessing because he wasn't obedient. There was a guy named Naaman. He was a Syrian, and he had leprosy. You know, and at the time they was occupying Israel, and he had a little slave girl that said, man, if you can just go to the prophet, the preacher in Israel, he can heal you of your leprosy. He's a man of God. He can heal you of your leprosy. So, you know, long story short, don't want to go back to the story, but he went through, and I think Elisha was the prophet at that time. So he went to the house where Elisha was at. He ended up at the house Elisha was at, and Elijah basically sent the servant out, didn't even come see the dude, and said, hey, just go dip yourself 7 times in the Jordan River, and when you come up on that 7th time, you'll be clean. You know, and Naaman got all upset. He was, man, I thought he'd at least come out and, you know, say, because he's a great man. He was this great general in this army. I think it wasn't the Philistines, but whatever it was, I think it was the Armenian. Was it the Armenians? I can't remember whoever it was that was occupying him at the time, but he was this great general. So he was expecting Elisha to come out and do some mighty thing and open up heaven and send all these blessings down to heal him. But Elijah said, nah, just go dip 7 times in Jordan. And he like took off pissed. I mean, he was upset. Man, I thought he'd at least come out and address me and wave his hand over me and do something special. You know, why can't I just go and wash in the rivers where I live at? Those rivers are better than this river anyway. You know, but thank God for him that he had a wise person in this camp. He had a wise, he don't say the servant's name, but he had a wise servant to say, hey, man, he said, master, you know, basically, hey, if he told you to do some really crazy, you know what I'm saying, complex thing, would you not have done it? He's like, well, now that he's telling you to just do this little simple thing, why not just do it and see what happens? You know, so he listened to, you know, this wise person. He went and dipped himself 7 times, and when he came up on the 7th, the leprosy was gone. See, he was obedient. He almost missed that blessing. If he went home and dipped himself in those other rivers, guess what? He never would have got that blessing. See, he was being tested as well. Was he worthy of this blessing that the Lord had for him? You know, and he came back thanking Elisha, and you know what I'm saying, he actually got saved that day. He said, look, man, he said, I just ask this one thing, just ask the Lord that when I go serve the king and I have to go into the temple with him and I bow, just ask him to basically disregard it. You know, my heart is with the Lord from this day forward. And he ended up getting saved. You know, of course, he was a pagan. He was a weak Christian, so to speak. You know, I've been like, man, I'm done with that pagan God. But that's me. You know, that's me. But at least he made that change of heart. You know, he made that change of heart and he gave his heart to the Lord. And he's like, man, look, you know, when I go into the temple with my master, when he bow, if I bow, just ask the Lord to please disregard that. But basically, my heart is to the Lord. You see what I'm saying? But again, his obedience was being tested. Before he got that blessing, his obedience was tested. And the same thing the Lord do for us. Every day you wake up, you have to decide, are you going to obey the Lord or are you going to do what you want to do? Every day you wake up, every day you live and breathe, every day you walk this earth, your obedience is going to be tested. And remember that so you don't fail a test and you can get the blessings that the Lord has for you. So number 5, don't forget that your obedience is always being tested. Every day you wake up, you have to choose if you're going to obey God's will for your life or you're going to obey your own wills. That was number 5. So then the next verse he said, I wrote to you as I did. And this next one is very important because you got to understand this. And I was really excited about getting to this. He said, so I wrote you as I did to find out how far you were going to obey me. He said, now when you forgive this man, I forgive him too. And when I forgive him for whatever is to be forgiven, I do so with Christ's authority for your benefit, so that Satan will not outsmart us, for we are very familiar with his evil schemes. And right there, I got King James Version, because there's one I told you is a couple of one where I'm going to put the King James. Right there, I got King James Version, because what the King James Version he said, at least Satan should get an advantage of us. He said, at least, number 11 says, least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So number 6 is this. This is something you got to understand, because I know a lot of people out there in this world right now are bitter. They hold this bitter and they hold this spite against people. My wife is bad about that. She's a grudge holder. You know, and I'm always like, baby, you gotta let this stuff go. But my wife, she holds some grudge. She get a grudge against you, then that's it. You know what I'm saying? If I ever mess up, then I know we probably won't be cool anymore because she holds some grudges. But what you gotta understand is, number 6 is this: unforgiveness and holding grudges give Satan a foothold in your life. But forgiveness and letting go puts you in line with Christ. That's what you got to understand. You know what I'm saying? Unforgiveness and holding grudges give Satan a foothold in your life. Because if you haven't forgiven that person, you know what I'm saying, and you come across that person, you might be in a situation where you can actually help that person. That person might have, fell on hard times or whatever, and you might be in a situation where you can help that person. And if you still got that unforgiveness and holding that grudge, you won't do it. Because again, what did Jesus say? He said, when you see your enemies, when he was teaching about forgiveness, he said, when you see your enemies, if you see your enemies and they're thirsty, give them something to drink. If you see your enemies and they're hungry, give them something to eat. If you see your enemies and they're naked, clothe them. He said, in doing so, you are heaping coals upon their heads. See, he's giving us a command. So we're actually commanded to forgive our enemies. Matter of fact, not only do you supposed to forgive your enemies, you should pray for them. I pray every day, Lord, if there's anybody that have hatred toward me in their heart, I pray that, you touch their heart and give them, take that hatred toward me out of their heart. But, more importantly, I pray for your power, love, and wisdom over their life. I pray for your power, love, and wisdom over their life so that they can get everything done they need to get done and get everywhere they need to be according to your will. I pray for my enemies every day. and that's what God commands us to do. So when you holding on to that unforgiveness, you hold on to the grudge, you're actually being disobedient. And we've just talked about how important it is to be obedient. That's actual disobedience because you're commanded to do those things. And that's what Paul is doing there. Because he said when you do that, you get a devil a foothold in your life. Because again, if you see this person and you got the opportunity to help them, you don't, that's not of God. That's going against God's will because we're commanded to be obedient. Or you might be, you see that person and he did you wrong when you're little. Now you want to fight him. Now you want to, beat him up or whatever. You hold that grudge and it'll put you in a situation where you might end up, going off on that person and end up killing them or something like that. And next thing you know, you're in jail. And next thing you know, you ruined your life and the life of your family because you're still walking around with this unforgiveness in your heart. There's several people that have done me dirty over the years. Several people have done me wrong. And there's some people that they won't even acknowledge, so you feel they don't even deserve forgiveness. But the Lord say, you still got to forgive them. You still got to forgive them because if you don't, it gives the devil a foothold in your life, and it actually blocks your blessing because you're holding all this hatred and this grudge inside of you. That the hatred and how did they say? It's a statement. Somebody said, was it hatred? Hatred is the only poison that kills its own vessel. You're the one suffering. Because a lot of times you have this hatred in your heart built up against somebody, you holding this grudge, and these people, they living in like they ain't even thinking about you. And it ain't even that they're being cold-hearted or nothing. They just ain't even thinking about it. They probably thinking what happened wasn't even a big deal. And you over here, every day you wake up stewing about it. Upset that they did this thing to you, and and you want to do something back to them. That gives the devil a foothold in your life, and it keeps you from having and getting a blessing. Now here's the key thing, and I'm talking about forgiveness, and yes, I'm talking about forgiving, and I'm talking about forgiving others, but that goes the same. And here's the kicker: that goes the same for yourself. That goes the same for yourself. I can't tell you how many people have been held back from doing the work of God because they've never forgiven themselves. They don't feel like they're worthy of doing the work because they've never forgiven themselves for their past. I can't tell you how many people it's hurt. That's something I work with. I got my middle son. He has a high functional autism, and one of the things of it is that they have a hard time with letting go. They're like, everything has to be perfect, everything has to be a certain way, and a lot of times he has a hard time letting go of past mistakes. To the point where we've actually had to get him mental help from it because he was so upset about things that he's done in his past. We had to actually get him medicine because he couldn't let it go. Now with him, it's more of a mental situation because of his autism. It's kind of one of the I won't say quirks. It's not a quirk. I don't guess that would be the right word, but it's one of the I don't want to say symptoms neither, but it's one of the things that I don't know the word I'm searching for right now. But it's one of the things that that goes along with the autism. He has a hard time letting go when he made a mistake. And see, a lot of times we do the same thing, and it keeps us. And I tried to talk to him like, son, as long as you still dwelling on your past, you'll never be able to make a future for yourself. I said, you got to get away from your past. Like, as long as you dwell on the past, you're still thinking in the past, you're looking in the past, you're never going to be able to have all the time and effort you putting into looking at your past is time and effort you could be putting into planning your future, mapping out your future, doing, making your future better. And it takes some time. Sometimes he's like, oh, but good. And he'll just get into a spell and go back. But we do the same thing. We do the same thing as Christians, and we don't realize us doing that, focusing so much on our past mistakes and that bad we used to do, it keeps us from doing the good that we could be doing in the future. And that's what you got to understand. That's why I say it gives the devil a foothold in your life, whether you don't forgive that person that did you wrong or you don't forgive yourself. And the reason why I know that personally, because that happened to me. I told you I gave my life to the Lord back in 2004, and for like the first 10 years, yes, I was going to church and doing things, but I was always hesitant to deeply get involved in the ministry. That's why the Lost Sheep Ministry is only 7 years old. It'll be 8 years old this coming up this July, and I gave my life to the Lord almost 19 years ago. See, that's why it's only 8 years old. I missed those first 10, 11 years because I never forgave myself for the things that I had done in my past. And what helped me finally get over that hump, and I made sure to story with y'all before, but what helped me finally get over that hump was when I moved here to where I'm at now, and I started going to the church I'm at, start learning a lot about spirituality, how to improve your spirituality, soul winning. I wanted to start going soul winning. I hadn't never did soul winning just yet, and this was soul winning church, and I would just want to do more in the church. And I can tell, and like I said, the church I'm at is a lot of older people, so there is work to be done. There's plenty of room for work to be done, but I just never felt I just never felt worthy of doing that work because I never had forgiven myself. And what happened was I talked to my pastor one night, and I said, man, and because I can tell he was really trying to get me involved, but like I said, I was holding back because I didn't feel worthy. So I remember one day it kind of came to a head. And we hadn't officially joined the church yet, even though we had been going at this time. We had been going for like a few months, and I can tell he wanted us to join, but I was hesitant. So I said, man, I'd like to have a conversation with you if you got some time. So I never forget, it was about 8:30. We set up some time, and I went by about 8:30 that night. And we went into his, we was in our old church building, and we went into his office, and I never forget, man, we talked from like 8:30 at night to like 1 o'clock that morning. And basically, what I was telling him, like, look, I told him, I said, I understand that, you need me to do work around here. And I said, I honestly want to do work around here. I said, but there's some things that I've done in my past that I don't feel worthy of doing this kind of work that you want me to do. And I said, there's some things some bad habits I still got that I do. And I said, no, and I want to tell you these things. I said, I want to talk to you and lay them out, be completely upfront with you. I said, I'm going to tell you these things. Hold on one second, get my charger. My battery just said, hey, you're getting low. But I said, I'm going to tell you the things. I said, now I'm going to tell you all these things I'm doing, what I'm going through, what I've done. I said, if you're fine with that and you still want me to serve, I said, I will serve. I said, I have no problem with it. I said, but if you're not, then I understand, and I keep going to your church. I just kind of hang in the background. So we had sat there and we talked, and I told him about all the stuff I did in my past, and drugs and things of that nature. And at that time, I was still like watching pornos. I was still smoking weed, still cursing all the time, had a party mouth. And I sat there and we had this conversation. And when we got through, he said, I was like, no, and I told him, I laid it out there. I said, so what do you think? And he said, man, I'm fine with it. I want you to serve. And I'm like, really? And I was kind of took back because it was like, it wasn't no thing. And he's like, yeah. And I was kind of like, well, why? If I tell you this, I've done this and I've said this and I do this, like, why would you want me to serve here? And he said, John, let me ask you something. He said, are you saved? I said, yes, sir. He said, are you saved? I said, yes, sir. He said, are you sure you saved? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, guess what? If you're truly saved, then God has forgiven you for those things. He said, your problem is, and what's holding you back, is you haven't forgiven yourself. And man, I just never thought about that. He said, man, he said, you done it. He said, I can tell you repented of it. I can tell it bothers you. He said, let it go. He said, as far as the stuff that you're still doing, he said, the fact that you told me these things, it already lets me know. He said, the fact you told me and the way you told me lets me know that it's bothering you. And since it's bothering you, that means the Lord is already working on your heart. And he said, when the day comes, then guess what? You're not going to do those things anymore. He said, eventually you're going to get away from doing those things. And he said, just keep on praying on it. The Lord will keep on working on you about it. And eventually you'll get away from it. And guess what? That was about 8 years ago. No, about 8 years ago. And guess what? Don't watch porn no more. Don't smoke weed no more. And I don't curse as much as I used to. You see what I'm saying? Got to take baby steps. But I have changed. And it's because I had to learn how to forgive myself. And that was something I had never forgiven myself for the way I lived. I had never really forgiven myself for all the years I spent running away from the Lord. I had never forgiven myself the wrong I've done, the people I wronged. I had never forgiven myself for that thing. And I'm not saying don't just, forget it. No, remember what you do because you don't want to make the same mistake, but you got to let it go. You got to forgive yourself and let it go and try to make it. I tell my son all the time, forgive yourself, let it go, but use the lessons from it. Use that hurt that you feel from it, that repenting that you feel from it, that shame that you feel from it, that keep you from doing it again in the future. Let it remind you and keep you from doing it again in the future. But as for right now, you got to let it go because it's holding you back. And y'all, that's when the ministry, Lost Sheep Ministry got started. When I finally realized that and I let that go, let that past go and started focusing more on my future than my past, that's when the Lost Sheep Ministry got started. And I'm here with y'all 8 years later. I'm here with y'all today. You see, that it all started once I let that past go, because what it is like when you're holding on to that unforgiveness, when you're holding on to those grudges, like I said, whether it's against a person yourself, it's like the Lord is forgiving you. The Lord, once you get saved, you get forgiven. And it's like you had on these handcuffs. These sin, you got to look at sin as like a handcuffs. So the Lord, when you ask the Lord to save your soul, he unlocked the handcuffs. You know, he unlocked them, but instead of you just taking them off, you know, he opened the locks, he freed you. But instead of you taking the handcuffs off and tossing them, you just leave them on there because you're more comfortable with them on there because you've always had them on there. That's why a lot of people is hard for them forgiving themselves. That's why they're so down on themselves, because that's all they know how to do. That's all they're used to doing. They're not used to being encouraged, no, I'm saying, getting an encouragement that the Lord has for them. They're not used to that. They're more concerned with beating themselves down and being, and that's what the thing is. That's why I say get the devil a foothold in your life. That's what he wants you to do. Because as long as you constantly beating yourself down, as long as you constantly down yourself, as long as you constantly not feel worthy of doing God's work, then guess what? You're never going to do God's work. And if you don't do God's work, then guess what? There's other people out there that's not going to get to hear the word of God because you sit here worried about something you did 20, 30 years ago. Let that stuff go. Let them, so they're unforgiving, or you worried about something that somebody did to you 20, 30 years ago. You know, like I said, I got people that have done some terrible things to me. You know, when I'm talking about myself, when I'm talking about forgiveness, you got to understand, I got raped by 2 different men in my family for a span of 4 or 5 years that this went on as a child. And I had to forgive them. I'm going to be obedient. I'm really going to be a proper Christian. If I'm really going to let this stuff go so I can grow, I had to forgive those dudes for that thing. Now, that don't mean you got to love them and go start hanging out with them, but you got to forgive them. You can't be holding no grudge against them because it's hurting you. It's hurting you. You're hurting yourself. You're not hurting that person. That person probably ain't even thinking about you. You're not hurting that person. You're hurting yourself, but also you're hurting the kingdom of God because it's going to keep you from doing the work that God has for you to do, and it gives the devil a foothold in your life. So you have to let that go. You have to let the unforgiveness go. You're like, well, man, it's just so hard because I got done so dirty. And again, what is a Christian? Christ-like one. What did Jesus and the ultimate, the ultimate one, and of course, y'all know where I'm going. What did Jesus do when he was on the cross? What did Jesus do when he was on the cross? He forgave the people. Jesus did absolutely nothing. You talking about not being fair. He did nothing. He lived a perfect life. Never once sinned, never once messed anybody over, never once jumped nobody and beat nobody up. He never once did anything to anybody, but yet he was tried and treated as one of the most brutal killers there ever was. Like he was just one of the most thuggish, most worst criminals that ever walked this face of this earth with the way he was tried and the way he was treated. And yet after all that, beating him, they say he was beaten. If you ever seen Mel Gibson, The Passion, that's pretty bad. But honestly, Mel Gibson, I saw an interview with Mel Gibson. He said, honestly, that was tame from what it really was. As bad as that was, he said, really, that was tame. Like basically, they beat him so bad, you can actually see his bones. They ripped the meat off of his bones. Like it was bad. And yet, even after all that, even while they was driving the nails through his hand, and he was hanging, after they had drove the nails through his hand and feet and hanging up on that cross, what did he say? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now, you notice he didn't say, Father, help me forgive them. He said, Father, forgive them. So what does that mean? He had already forgiven them. Even though they doing him completely wrong, it was completely unfair, he didn't do anything to them, he had already forgiven them, and now he was asking God to forgive them. See, so if you're going to be a Christ-like one, you got to do this same thing. You got to have the ability to do the same thing. You got to be able to let go of that unforgiveness, because if you don't, it's going to give the devil a foothold in your life, and it's going to keep you from doing the work that the Lord has for you to do. So number 6, unforgiveness is something you got to remember. If you're going to be a Christian, you got to let that stuff go. Unforgiveness and holding grudges give Satan a foothold in your life, but forgiveness and letting go puts you in line with Christ. And just like I said, the example, when he was on the cross, being nailed to a cross after being beat to where his flesh had been ripped off his bones, he still said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what to do. He didn't say, Father, help me forgive them. He said he had already forgiven them. Now he was asking God to forgive them. That's show you, if you can do that, if you can love your enemies and you forgive your enemies, forgive those that has done you wrong, let that stuff go, let it slide. And you know what I'm saying? That shows that you're really in line with Christ and you truly are being a Christ-like one. So number 6 again, unforgiveness and holding grudges give Satan a foothold in your life, but forgiveness and letting go puts you in line with Christ. And again, whether forgiveness of yourself or others, it's still don't sit there and hold that grudge against yourself because you've done wrong, you made the mistakes. Oh, I can't believe how dumb I am to keep doing the same thing. You got to let it go. Keep going forward, because again, that's going to hold you back. If you focus on your past, you focus on your mistakes, you'll never be able to have a bright future and do the work that the Lord truly has for you to do in your future. So again, unforgiveness and holding grudges give Satan a foothold in your life. So in verse 12, he says, now, well, when I came to the city of Troas to preach the good news of Christ, the Lord gave me tremendous opportunities. So number 7 is this. This is something you got to understand. I'm always talking about soul winning. I don't want to say bragging on it, but I'm always talking about soul winning because it means a lot to me. I absolutely love soul winning. Matter of fact, for the first time in a while, I had to miss soul winning this Saturday. Kind of bummed me out. But it didn't. We went down and had an event to go to, and it just took way longer than I thought it was gonna take. And by the time we got done with everything, like the sun was already down, so I didn't get the chance to go soul winning. So so I missed that. But I'm always talking about soul winning and things of that nature. And a lot of people, they're like, well, I want to do it, but I can't. I want to do it. I don't know how to talk to people. I'm ashamed or whatever. And you gotta understand. Whenever, all you got to do, matter of fact, number 7 is this. The only ability God lacks is availability. If you go, he will use you. If you make yourself available, God will use you. I don't care how illiterate you think you are. I don't care. I know I had this one guy that was working at work. He's got into getting back into church and reading his Bible. And he's been on it for it's been like 4 or 5 years now since he started. And he's really been on it. And we have, all the time, we have these little biblical conversations and things of that nature. And I remember he's like, man, I'm not smart enough. I can never, remember the Bible. I can never remember the quotes and I want to help people and I want to tell my testimony and I want to do this, but I just don't think I can do it. And I kept on telling, like, man, look, just keep reading your Bible. I'm like, it's in there. I said, it's getting in there. If you realize the Lord word never returns in vain, it's in there. I said, when the time comes, I said, if you make yourself available, when the time comes, if somebody need that help, they need that word of encouragement, I guarantee you're going to come out. Man, I don't think I can do it. And he kept on like, man, look, just read, keep reading what you can, and I guarantee you. And I'll never forget, he came to me one day, and his face just had this look of, just this look of shock. Not no one can say shock. He was just excited. He like, man, how about I was with my buddy, and we was working on the truck the other day, and got to talking, and somehow God came up, and we was in a certain situation we were talking about, whatever situation was, the exact verse that I needed, that I tell him just started coming out. I was able to quote it to him. He said, I couldn't tell him where it was at, but I remember. I said, see, I told you it was in there. I told you it was in there, and when you needed it, it came out. See, the only ability God don't have is availability. As long as you make yourself available, and as long as you're willing to put in the time and effort to do whatever he tells you to do, he will use you. I can't tell you how many times, now y'all have heard me talk about it before, how many times I went out soul winning and maybe the day ran late or something, or, the day was late or didn't go right, and whatever reason, I didn't get out to go soul winning at the time that I normally would. So I only had maybe, I remember one time when I had like 30, 40 minutes before it got dark. And I was like, well, I'm just going to use the 30, 40 minutes. And guess what? Somebody got saved. See what I'm saying? I made myself available. And I remember, matter of fact, the one I can remember, I remember that time, but the one I remember the most is when I was in Houston. I was in Houston down in August, August of last year. And I wanted to go soul winning. Never been soul winning in Houston. And it just happened. I was there on a Saturday, which is when I normally go soul winning, but my flight was heading out. And with a thing, by the time I got up and got packed and everything and got caught in traffic, that's what happened. I got caught in traffic. So I didn't have, by the time I got to the place that I would go soul winning, I only had like an hour. I had to leave with the traffic and everything. I had to leave. I had just an hour. And I was like, pushing it is going over an hour, but really, I need to leave here within an hour. Like if I don't leave here within an hour, I'm going to miss my flight. And I'm going to have to catch a later flight and pay a lot of money and all that stuff. So I only had an hour, and I was in this huge project. Didn't even know where to start. And I just told the Lord, like, Lord, I know I thought I would have way more time. I like to go at least an hour and a half, 2 hours. I thought I would have way more time than I had. Didn't go right. I said, but I do got an hour. I said, so Lord, I'm going to give you this hour, and I just pray you use me within this hour. And it's so fun. I remember I was wanting to see, I remember saying like, I want to see at least like 7 saved. I believe that was the number. It was like 7 saved. And would y'all know that I went out there, gave my little hour, and I ended up staying an hour and 5 minutes, hour and 10 minutes. So I was like right there on the borderline. But I gave my little hour and 10 minutes. And guess what? Within an hour and 10 minutes, 7 people got saved. 7 people got saved. See, I made myself available. I went out there and the Lord led me exactly where I needed to be because it was a huge project. And then somebody just told me, hey, go over there by the basketball court. Because it's always like young people or, especially in like the projects, a lot of the sellers and things of that nature, they hang out around the basketball court, public area or whatever. And so, they kind of, disguise what they're doing because they look like they at the park, but really they doing some other stuff. So, but all I had was that hour. Lord, I got an hour. I was really want to see about 7 people saved. And I went over there and all together, 7 people got saved. And I remember, I never forget, I got back just in time to make it to security. I stopped at a place and grabbed a sandwich and didn't even have the time to eat it. I grabbed a sandwich. And matter of fact, while I was grabbing a sandwich, they made the call that the plane was loading. You know what I'm saying? So I had just enough time to get back there, make it through security, get my bag checked in, grab me a sandwich, and I got on the plane. And they're like, dang it, I'm going to have to eat on this plane. And them seats are little, and you don't have enough room. Like, it's going to be uncomfortable, but I was starving. And then I get on the plane, turned out it wasn't a full flight, so I had a seat to myself. You know what I'm saying? So I was able to eat in peace. And all that worked out, not because I'm so special, not because I'm so awesome, but because I made myself available. And you got to understand, whenever you got doing God's work, it's not your ability that gets the people saved anyway. It's not your ability to do the work. You're not able to do these things and do these miracles and lead people to the Lord because of your ability. You're able to do these things and lead people to the Lord because of God's ability, God working through you. And you have to always make sure you remember that. That's why I say the only ability God don't have is availability. You make yourself available, He will use you. This happened. Another one. I remember this happened just a couple of weeks ago. I'm in a situation where I'm having to look for a new house. And we was looking at possibly having to move into a mobile home, and so we was looking at mobile homes at this place in Kentucky. And again, I've never been so into Kentucky before, so oh man, it was a Saturday, and I was like, man, if I can somewhere, because I had my family with me, so if I can some way work away from my family, I want to go out and do a little bit of soul winning. So when I left that morning, it wasn't really cold. It was cool, but it wasn't cold. So I had on just a hoodie sweater, and that was it, in long pants. Well, by the time we got through visiting everything and just doing the day, it got cold. I mean, it was frigid. It was about 30 degrees. So I'm sitting here with just a freaking hoodie on, and that's it. That's all I had. And I mean, the wind was just cutting through that hoodie like I might well just been naked. So I was freezing my butt off, but man, I really wanted to go soul winning. I'm like, man, I said, well, Lord, you're gonna have to keep me warm because I really want to go. And just so happened I had my gloves in my truck at least, so I did have some gloves to protect my hands so they didn't freeze off. But I mean, it was cold. And I was like, well, man, hopefully that. And so I convinced my wife. My wife, they wanted to go to the mall anyway. So I said, I tell y'all what, y'all drop me off over in these projects. I found some projects up there. I said, drop me off in these projects and y'all can go to the mall and just come back and pick me up like in an hour or so. So they're like, fine, that worked out. So they did, they dropped me off, and I'm talking about frigid cold. I mean, it was so cold that honestly at one point, like, you know what? These people can go to hell. Like, it's too cold to be out here knocking on people's doors. But I stuck with it. And guess what? Ended up coming across a young man, was not saved, ended up getting saved. And I know he was serious about it because, when he said, he didn't mind listening to the gospel, I said, well, you want to step in your playground? Because like I said, it was freezing. And I really hope he said yes, because I was freezing my butt off. But he's like, no, man, it's a mess in here right now. He said, I just step out there. So I'm like, well, that's fine, but man, don't you want to put some more clothes? Because he was in his house, so all he had on was like a tank top and some shorts. And he's like, no, I'll be all right. And he sat on the porch, and I can tell, I mean, it was one point, he was shaking. So I was trying to go as fast as possible, but with the God, you can't go too fast. I wanted to make sure you understood everything, but he sat out there in that freezing cold in just some tank tops and shorts, but he ended up getting saved. Why? Because I gave God the time, the little time that I had, the discomfort that I had. Yes, it was cold, did not want to be out there, but I also didn't want to miss the opportunity to tell somebody else about the Lord. And because of that, he was the only one that got saved. I knocked on several doors. He was the only one that got saved. And really too, it was a lot of people from Africa there. And I'm talking like Africa. There was a lot of people from like Kenya, I think Kenya, Uganda, and it was a couple other places. And they said they were basically refugees. So I guess it was kind of like a big refugee area because about 80% of the people I talked to were from Africa. And they was no Muslims or whatever, and I don't go back and forth on that, but I did still give them a gospel track or whatnot. But my point is, even though it was cold, even though I really didn't have the time to do it, I made the time to do it. I made myself available to the Lord, and the Lord used me, and the young man was able to get saved because of it. So you got to understand, the only ability God doesn't have is availability. You know what I'm saying? If you make yourself available, the Lord will use you. we think about, when you look at Moses, what happened when the Lord told Moses, Lord told Moses, hey, go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. What's the first thing Moses? I can't talk, Lord. I can't. No, the thing about that, I can't talk. Because from what I understand from history, that Moses had a stutter. So he was probably embarrassed about the way he talked, kind of thing. So he made every excuse in the book. I can't talk. Then he found send somebody else. Then the Lord said, I tell you what, your brother Aaron, no, he's a good talker. I send you with him, but you're going, basically. And just so happened now, Moses hadn't seen his brother in 40 years, and just so happened right after this happened, his brother come walking up. Show you how God works. But the thing is, he said, I can't talk, Lord, I can't do it, send somebody else. And then if you read through Exodus, every single time they were talking to Pharaoh, who was doing the talking? Moses. See, he made it say he was doubting God's ability, but really it was his own ability he was worried about. But in doing so, being worried about his ability, he was doubting God's ability. But once he gave God that availability, the Lord used him in a mighty way, and he ended up freeing the nation of Israel. And he went in there, and he was so mighty in his words and the deeds that he did, they looked at him like he was a god. So even though God worked through him, but the Egyptians, they felt like he was a god, because they couldn't mess with him. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because he made himself available. So stop, Stop doubting yourself. Stop doubting your ability, because it's not your ability that get the job done in the first place. It's God's ability. Make yourself available. The Lord will use you. The only way he can use you is if you're not available. If you're not going out there knocking on doors, you're not handing out gospel tracts, you're not telling other people about the Lord, that he can't use you because you're not doing nothing. But if you do that, then you're fine. I remember the first time, I went out soul winning. I felt so awkward. I mean, the first few months I went out soul winning, I was the silent partner. I refused to talk. And I know y'all probably hard to believe it, but I refused to talk. I was like, man, I can't do this. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this thing. And it was such a hard thing to do. And I never forget. So, and I went out for the first few months, and I just listened to my pastor. I went with my pastor and several other people. And then one day was in the projects, and was out soul winning, and the guy that was doing all the talking, he knocked on one door, and the people came out, so he started talking to them. And then, so I guess the next door neighbor thought somebody went on their door, so they came out. So he like, hey, John, why don't you go talk to them? And I'm like, what? I wasn't prepared for it. So I went over, and I remember the young teenage man, and I asked him to go to church. He said, not really. And then I asked him if he knew if he would die, he would go to heaven. And he said, no, he don't. And I'm like, well, would you like to know? He like, yeah. And I was shocked. I'm like, no, okay, really? So I just took one of the gospel tracks. I mean, I hadn't really, now I kind of have it in my mind. I've done it enough to where I know it almost by heart, especially with the prayer at the end, But at this time, I didn't know nothing. So I just stumbled and bumbled through it, and I was trying to use the examples that I heard other people use, and I messed them all up. And I mean, it was horrible. So I'm like, there ain't no way this guy gonna get saved today. But then guess what happened? At the end of it, I asked the guy, I said, would you like to accept the Lord as your Savior? And he said, yes. And I was shocked, really? Yeah. So I had him put his hand on my Bible. And again, I didn't even have a sinner's, I didn't even know the sinner's prayer as far as a service in the prayer. So I just read the one that was on the back of the card. And the guy asked the Lord to save his soul. And when that happened, it finally clicked to me. It's not me. It's not my fancy little speech. It's not my, my charismatic character. It's God working through me. And it clicked, y'all. And don't y'all know that day I had 11, through the grace of God, I won't say I had, but through God's grace, through God's ability, 11 people ended up getting saved that day. Matter of fact, we always do a little contest, see who get the most people saved kind of thing. And it ain't really a contest, but the pastor give $1 for every person you see saved. He give you $1, because usually we go out to lunch afterwards. So he's like, well, for every person you see saved, you get $1. And that day I got the most dollar. I had $11. I ended up paying for my lunch at McDonald's that day. But again, it's because I realized it wasn't me. It wasn't my ability. It wasn't my fancy. When I'm doing these lessons, and you guys are here, Miss Alicia, always here faithfully. I appreciate it. Chris, always here faithfully. You're not here for me. You're here for the Word of God, and everything that I'm giving you is what God has given me. That's why I'm doing this. That's why it touches your heart. That's why it helps you get through, because these are the words that God gave me. It's not me. I read the little books and I put my little points together, but a lot of times y'all look at my pad, I got one little point and all the extra stuff, it just start pouring out of me. All my little stories, I have a thought like, oh yeah, I remember this time I did that. These little stuff just start pouring out of me. That's God giving me that ability. But I'm making myself every Monday night at 7 o'clock, unless something goes crazy wrong, I'm here making myself available, and God is using me to help you all. So you got to understand that the only ability God lacks is availability. If you go, he will use you. He will use you. Don't worry about yourself. You can't mess up God's plan. You can't mess up. If God's been working on somebody's heart to get saved, they're going to get saved. You know what I'm saying? If they've been under that conviction, they're going to get saved. You just got to make yourself available so you can present the gospel to them so they have the opportunity to do so. So number 7, the only ability God lacks is availability. If you go, he will use you. And then number 8, and I'm going to probably stop up there because it's already an hour and a half in. Man, I'm taking the time flies. I honestly, y'all be feel like, man, I ain't even talking that much. That point went quick. And then I look up and then my clock is an hour and a half in. So I'm going to go one more and then we're going to stop there because I want to finish this paragraph out. And we'll stop there. And then next week it'll actually, because there's only 4 points left. So I will be able to get it finished up next week. But number 7 was the only ability God lacks is availability. If you go, he will use you. And then number 8 is this. We read the verse 13. It says, but he said, when I came to the city of Troas to preach the good news of Christ, the Lord gave me tremendous opportunity. So again, he made himself available. He traveled to the place. He made himself available to use the Lord used him to do a tremendous work. Then the next verse he said, but I couldn't rest because my dear brother Titus hadn't yet arrived with a report from you. So I said goodbye and I went on to Macedonia to find him. So number 8 is this. If you're going to be a proper Christian, yep, Moses had a stutter. Yes, he did. I appreciate you being here, Miss Candace. That's a blessing. That's one of my first Lost Sheep members there. One of the first ones I encouraged from years back. I met her when she was young, and she's doing her thing now, and I'm so happy. So I want to say proud of you, but it's definitely a blessing to have you in my life. I appreciate you being here. So number 8, again, he says, but I couldn't rest because my dear brother Titus hadn't yet arrived with a report from you. So I said goodbye and went on to Macedonia to find him. So number 8 is this. If you're going to be a Christian, if you're going to be a Christian, you're going to do the work of God. Sorry, somebody was trying to call me. You're going to be the work of God. You got to care about your people. You got to make sure you care about your people. And as a matter of fact, I'm sitting there talking about Candace, and I don't reach out to her as much because I see on Facebook and see the things she's doing. That's why I know everything she's doing right now. But I'm always concerned with my people. You know what I'm saying? I'm always concerned. Me and Miss Alicia talk from time to time. Me and Chris, we talk from time to time. I see you on here. I'm always concerned with my people. So number 8, always be concerned with the well-being of those God has given you. I'm always concerned. I'm always praying for y'all. I pray for y'all all the time. Matter of fact, I pray for everybody in my ministry. I pray everybody in my ministry, everybody I've ever shared the gospel with, everybody I've ever gave a word of encouragement from the Lord. I pray for y'all every single day. And I don't just say, oh, I'm praying for you. I really do pray for y'all every single day. Every time I pray for y'all every single day. Every single day. You got to be concerned with your people. Texting, the little simple stuff, just text people every once in a while. People get it coming out of the blue. And Candace can attest to this. Every once in a while, I go through Hickman County and I hit her, hey, and y'all, she's always doing some stuff. But I'm like, hey, I'm being in Hickman County. Y'all, can I stop by? And sometimes it worked out and I get to go by and see her and the family. And sometimes it don't. But if I'm in that area, I'm all like, oh, let me see. I got people in this area. Let me go check on them because I know I don't get over there all the time. But always be concerned with your people. You never know what they're going through. You never know what they're dealing with. And sometimes just getting that call, that text, I make sure, like most of my people, I try to make sure I text them, especially if I haven't heard from them in a while. I try to text them. I definitely make sure I try to call them because I'll tell you, I've got to the point I'm not social as I used to be because I'm so busy now. Because y'all got to understand, I work full time with my job, and this ministry takes a lot of time as well. And then I got my family, and I got to have that balance. I can't get so far in doing God's work that I forget about my family. So I have to have that balance. So I don't have a lot of time to spare. So I'm not as social as I used to be. I don't hang out as much as I used to because I'm always somewhere doing something. So I get bad about, going for a while without talking to somebody or something. But I do make sure every once in a while I text, especially when like most people I know their birthdays. Certain people when it's their birthday, I always give them a call or, you know what I'm saying, I do more than just a text or a post on Facebook. I try to give them a call. My really close people, my inner circle, so to speak, I always try to give them a call, especially for their birthdays, see how they doing, what's going on with them. I had a brother, matter of fact, my daughter's birthday, his birthday the same day, gave him a call the other day. He didn't answer. I left him a voicemail, but he ain't got back to me yet. But I did give him a call, left him a voicemail. Man, I ain't seen you in forever. I just want to check on you, make sure you're doing good. I hope you had a happy birthday. No, you got to be concerned with your people, because you never know what they're going through. I know I had this one lady in the ministry that she's been pretty faithful, and here she started missing, and she's missed several meetings, and that hadn't happened before. And I'm like, what's going on? And it turns out, long story short, she's been going through some things. She's been in and out the hospital, and I had no clue, because I was trying to reach her, and I wasn't, getting through to her. But one of the other ladies that from the ministry that lived close to her, she kind of informed me of what was going on, kind of thing. But I knew something was going on, because all of a sudden she started missing. You have to be concerned with your people. You never know what they're going through. So when God puts somebody in your life, when you come across somebody, that especially somebody like I know, like I said, I'm messing with Candy because she's here, but I mean, I've been knowing her for years. I've been knowing her. We've known each other it had to be over 20 years. Yeah, because I met her. Yeah, it's been about right at 20 years, because I met her. Matter of fact, I started working with her right after I gave my life to the Lord. It's been 19 years since I gave my life to the Lord. And we'll lose touch every now and again, but so we always end up to somehow find each other, kind of thing. And we always like, hey, how you doing? How the family doing? Kind of thing. I've always done that, because I've had a couple of times where I've had people that the Lord has brought into my life. Yeah, it is 20 years exactly. That's what I thought. It was close to 20 years. But I've had people that the Lord has brought into my life, and this is why I do it. The person it's the lesson here. We said Paul did it, but there was twice where I had people that came to my life, and I kind of lost touch with them and didn't hear from them for a while. And when I finally did, like, man, where they at? I haven't heard from them. They were dead. I had a guy, matter of fact, if y'all heard my testimony, the guy that was supposed to rob me, where he was, set me up to rob me, and I ended up confronting him about it. If y'all heard my testimony, I told y'all I became friends, and he became part of my ministry, and I would minister to him, and every single time that, I noticed every single time that I would go long periods not hearing from him, he would be in jail. So whenever I went a month or two, because we talked on a regular basis, but if I go a month or two without hearing from him, I'm like, I wonder what man is up to. And he had like 7 kids, so I had like all his baby mama numbers. So I started calling, hey, what's man at? And eventually I come across one that be, he's in jail or whatnot. And it happened again one time. I didn't hear from him like 2-3 months. I'm like, man, where is he? I said, this boy is in jail again. This knuckle, because he was a knucklehead. He was trying, but he was just a knucklehead. And I remember I called his baby mama, and she said, oh my gosh, Wop. She said, I'm so sorry. I didn't even think about you. I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, he's dead. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what happened? I thought, because like I said, he was a thug. So I thought maybe, so he tried to rob somebody or something and got caught up. But she's like, no, he actually had changed his life. He had his car. He was working, doing good. And apparently, and that's actually, you can actually look this up. His name was Mendricus Darden. It was news because basically one day he was on his way home. He lived in Springfield, and he was either on his way to Springfield or he was on his way from Springfield. But something happened to where he either passed out. I still don't know the details, but basically he went across the median and went into oncoming traffic and hit another car that was going the opposite way head on, and he died in the wreck. And in the other car, and this is the sad part, he died because he was by himself. And in the other car, it was a woman, her mother, and 3 kids. And all of them died except for the baby. It was a baby in the back in the car seat. And the baby was the only one that survived the wreck. But him and 4 other people died in that wreck. And I had no clue this had happened. And she's like, and she told me, she said, look it up. You can look it like it was all over the news and look it up. And of course, I looked it up and saw the news report on it. And yeah, it had happened and he was dead. And there's all this time I had no clue. And then there's another situation where I came across this young lady in Dixon. I was out soul winning, and she was in this real abusive relationship. And I told her, man, I've dealt with a lot of people in an abusive relationship. I said, I can tell you, like, a lot of people don't escape those relationships. And, and we had this good long talk, and she was just like, and she just happened to be there visiting her cousin. So she's like, oh, man, I'm so thankful. I know God sent you by to talk to me. She said, I promise you I'm going to listen to you. I'm not going to mess with this guy no more. I'm done with him, blah, blah, blah. So, and she ended up friending me on Facebook. So I kind of kept in touch with her a little bit. And it's about like 2-3 weeks went past. She was talking back and forth. About 2-3 weeks went past. One day in about like 1 o'clock in the morning, I got this message from her. And it wasn't even her. It was just a video. And what it was like just some bloody clothes, and it was her clothes. And I mean, she was basically the blood, the clothes was soaked in blood. And she just put a cap. She wouldn't even talk to me. I guess she was so embarrassed about it. She said, I just really wish I would have listened to you. He tried to kill me this time. And she just had a video of, she was just kind of doing her clothes, showing her clothes where her blood, she was covered from head to toe in blood, you know what I'm saying, in her clothes. And she said, but I really understand now that I'm done with the dude and I'm done. So again, she on Facebook, and a few weeks later, she told me she was gonna go back to school because she was going to like Belmont, and she ended up going back to school. She was doing good. She had like straight A's in school. She was going to graduate in this nursing program, and everything was good. And then all of a sudden, I noticed she wasn't posting on Facebook anymore, it went a couple of months, and she hadn't posted it, and I kind of reached out like, hey, how you doing? And she had never did respond. So I just happened to be in Dixon again, soul winning. So I went by her cousin's house because where I met her at. And I said, hey, I ain't seen your cousin in a while, and she ain't posting them on Facebook. Like, what's going on? And her face dropped. She said, she's dead. And I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah. So they found her in the parking lot with a hot shot in her arm. So they said they put it as a overdose. They diagnosed it, or they I forgot the term I'm looking for, but anyway, they classified it as an overdose. But she ended up, and she told me, she said, that dude you had told her stop messing with? Like, yeah, like she started back messing with him, and we think that she really tried to leave him this time, and he killed her and made it look like she overdosed. You know what I'm saying? So, and I say all that to say, you just never know. And like I said, when she went a few months, and that time I learned, because I learned from my boy my partner Man. So I was like, let me see what's going on with her, like what she had. Because last time I saw, like I said, she was in Belmont. She had sent me a report card. She had straight A's. She was doing good. And then they said they found her dead. Young lady. I mean, she was only like 25, 26 years old. Beautiful, very beautiful lady. Gone. Because, what I'm saying, she got back with that dude. And they said they couldn't prove it, but they pretty sure that dude ended up, killing her, giving her some stuff that killed her. You know what I'm saying? She died from an overdose. So, I mean, just sad. So, I say all that to say that keep an eye on your folks, because you don't know what they're going through. And you might, that call from you, that text from you, that happy birthday thing from you, it might be just what they need. They might be right there on the edge, and they get that text, that how you doing text, that hey, that how you doing, happy birthday call, and it might be what just take them back off the edge. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got friends that every year I tend to sometimes get busy, and I might miss the actual day, but even though I miss the actual day, I call the next day. And and one I've done this so much that she like, she told me the other day, she said, oh, it's a tradition now. Like, if you call me on my birthday, I think it's gonna mess my birthday up. So, since I call her the day after her birthday just to keep the tradition going. But she always know I'm gonna call. And if something happened and I don't give her that call, then she's gonna be worried. I got another one. My cousin, got a cousin Chad. This year I was kind of busy. So I usually call him the day before. Like with the girl, I call her the day after her birthday, and my cousin Chad, I would call him the day before. And the day before, I had just got so busy that I was actually thinking about it, just call him on his birthday. And I never forget, it was like 9:30 at night. He called me, and he was like, "Yeah, man, what's going on?" I said, "Man, nothing. Happy birthday." He said, "Man, I was just worried you ain't called me yet. I wanted to make sure he's all right," because he knew that at some point I was going to call him. I know him to call him. He said, "I ain't want to break tradition." I said, "Well, you broke tradition. You weren't supposed to call me. I was supposed to call you." And I was actually getting ready to call him. I'm going to go ahead and call him. But he called me before I called him. But again, it's just because I've gotten the habit of checking on my people. You want to check on your people, especially if you're responsible for guiding them. So I'm responsible for guiding you guys in the right direction. So I'm responsible. That's my responsibility. That's the mantle I've taken on by being a minister. I got to be there for you. So if you need me and I'm not there for you, then the person that might show up might not be the person that have your best interest in the heart. That's something I always tell my kids. I don't care what I'm doing, how busy I am. If you need me, if you got something you talk about, let me know. I will give you that time. Same with y'all. If y'all got something y'all need to talk about, message me. And some of y'all have done that. Y'all reached out to me like, hey, I'm going through this, pray for me kind of thing. And I have done that. I've done that. And some of y'all situation has worked out. Matter of fact, in the last couple of weeks, I had a couple of y'all do that. And I've done that. I try to be there for you because you never know. Just like I need people to be there for me sometimes, I need to be here for y'all. And if you have people in your world, whether you're a parent, again, a mentor or whatever, try to be there for your people. Make sure you're checking on your people. Try not to go too long without talking to your people and checking on your people, because you never know what they're going through, and they might need that word of encouragement from you to pull them back off the ledge, the end of the edge of the ledge. I said that wrong, but it might pull you back. You might be that call, that text, or whatever might be exactly what they need to pull them back off the ledge and give them the encouragement they need to keep going on. And that's what Paul was saying. He said, man, I haven't heard from my God. So he said, even though I was doing this great work, and you got to understand, he left God's work doing it. He said, even though, I was doing this great work, I had to leave because I need to go check on my people. This was my guy. He should have been here. He hadn't. I need to check on him and make sure he was all right. And we need to do the same thing. Like I said, usually on the holidays, I go through my phone and I just send out a mass text. Everybody, hey, Merry Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Same for like Thanksgiving, New Year's. I usually just go through my phone, and every number in my phone, I just send a text. And sometimes people are like, man, who the hell are you? This ain't no longer their number. And then I take the number out, but I just go through my phone. I send everybody a text, because you never know. Somebody might not, they might like, man, this is my Christmas. Nobody told me Merry Christmas. And then your text come through, and that be the encouragement they need to keep going forward. So again, number 8, always be concerned about with the well-being of those the Lord has given you. You know what I'm saying? Texting people, calling people on their birthdays, things of that nature. You never know how much that helps, and how much they mean to people, and how much they can walk them back off the edge of that ledge, so to speak. So there, I'm gonna stop there, y'all. My time is up. I did go over a little again, but I'm staying under my 2 hours, so I'm doing pretty good. So I'm gonna stop right there. So I do got 4 more points. So that means I will. I told you I want to see how it goes. So I will go next Monday, Lord willing. We'll finish this. We'll find, because I only got 4 left, so I definitely should be able to finish next Monday, and then we'll finally get back over into the book of Samuel and looking at the importance of the following the will of God. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead with my ending announcements as usual. If y'all been here, y'all know same ones. If there's anything in particular I haven't covered already, or you want me to talk about in a particular Bible story I haven't covered already, you can always inbox me and let me know. I work it into my lesson plan. And again, right now, Lord willing, I'll be back next Monday, and we'll finally finish up chapter 2, and then we'll go back into Samuel until the lost sheep, because I haven't even started chapter 3 of the lost sheep just yet. So it might be a little bit before we get back to Corinthians, but I did want to get y'all caught up to where lost sheep was at. So again, next Monday, 7 o'clock, we'll finish up chapter 2. If y'all wanted to be back, and if not, y'all can catch the video later. Keep sharing the videos, telling others about the videos, tagging people in the videos. Of course, my stuff is always public. It's never private, because I want this word to get out so people can do this, can hear this word, and they can improve their life, and they can do what they need to do to be a proper Christian as well. So continue to tell people about the video so this word can get out. Of course, if you're watching this, I didn't really talk about salvation tonight, but if you're watching this and you're not 100% sure when you go through that door called death that you're going to see the Lord on the other side, please reach out to me and let me know. I will schedule some time with you so I can share the gospel with you, so I can tell you what you need to know, give you the words that you need so you can make the decision to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior. And as always, if you got any kind of spiritual counseling you need, reach out to me and let me know. Again, I can schedule some time with you, and we can try to do my best to use whatever wisdom the Lord has given me to help you with whatever question that you may have, or give you some comfort in maybe some situation you're going through. And as always, especially with this Corinthians, this is a lesson I did a while ago, and I'm just getting caught back up with the lost sheep now. But if you want to go back and watch the old lessons, this is my YouTube page, God's Servant / Lost Sheep Ministries. Type it in with a space between, just like that, and we'll take you to my channel. It'll be easy to find my channel because I don't have a lot of subscribers. So, no, I keep it real, which I don't have a lot of subscribers. So if you put it like that, you can take you to my channel. You can actually find my channel, and you can go watch my old videos. So with that being said, thank y'all for joining me tonight. I'm going to go ahead and pray, and I'm going to get out of here, all right? Dear Lord and Father, thank you so much for watching over me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share your gospel tonight. Thank you for all the people that are dedicating their time to being here tonight. I know it's a Monday night, Lord. We just getting started, and it's all kind of things that other things that people could be doing. But you gave them the want to be here to hear your word tonight. And I pray I did it some justice. I pray that I was able to give them some things to think about, Lord. I pray I was able to give them some wisdom that's going to sink in their heart and bring them into conviction. Maybe some things that they're not doing. Maybe they're holding on to their unforgiveness whether it's people in their lives or just themselves for the things that they made, the mistake they made in the past. Help them get rid of that unforgiveness, Lord, so the devil don't have a foothold in their life. And just continue to watch over us all, be with us all, help us all be able to realize realize that once we give our heart to you and we truly repent, you forgiving those sins and you don't look at them no more. So we shouldn't either. We should focus on the future. I try to tell people all the time, you don't worry about what we've done in the past. You worry about what we can do in the future. And that's the same thing that we should focus on as well. I just thank you so much for this lesson. Thank you for this word, putting these words in my heart, Lord. And I thank you for it's not helping me see that it's not my ability. I definitely don't have a lot of ability. I just like to talk. But you use that to help others, Lord, and I'm so grateful for it. Thank you for all the people that you've brought into my world. Thank you for all the people that's a part of this Lost Sheep ministry, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to guide them in the direction they need to go. So we ask you watch over us as we go about this night, Lord. Keep us all safe as we prepare to rest, to get rested up so we can have another day to honor and glorify your name and do the work you have for us to do. Watch over all those that you've given me the responsibility of leading towards you, Lord. Just continue to keep your hand upon this ministry. Be with me, my family, Lord, my ministry members, and just continue to be a wall of protection around us all. Give us all the encouragement and enthusiasm we need to continue to go forth doing your work, and just use us in a mighty way so we continue to honor and glorify your name and actively build your kingdom, Lord. Watch over this country. Help us to see. I pray. I almost forgot to mention, Lord. Please be with those that was involved in that school shooting today. Such a tragic event, Lord. And I try to tell people all the time, when you see this stuff like how can this happen? Where was God? It's not that you're not there. It's because of the lack of you being there, because we've told you we didn't want you there, Lord. And I'm not saying because they've taken prayer out of school that the kids got shot because prayer wasn't in school. I'm saying this is a sign of a society of godlessness. I've never seen so many school shootings in my entire life. When I first came up, it happened every once in a while. Now it seems like it'd be a regular occurrence. And it's because we're getting farther and farther away from you. And the farther we get from you, the more the devil is going to do things to take this world in a direction that you did not intend for it to go. So, Lord, please be with the families of those ones that lost their lives, the kids. That you get up and you see your kids at school, you think they're safe. They're going to be in a safe place. Nobody ever imagines that the day they get up and they put their kids on their school bus or they drop them kids off at school, that they're never going to get to see those kids again. And the adults that died as well. They just went to work that day, not knowing that that'll be their last day going to clock in, Lord. That's a sad situation. And I pray that you please keep your hands upon the families that's suffering tonight and that's going through this tragic event, and just help them be able to heal from it, and just let them feel your comfort in this affliction they're going through right now. But again, just watch over the world as a whole. Help us see how important it is for us to get back to you, give our hearts back to you before it's too late and we go past that point of no return and completely lose your grace upon our lives. Just continue to shine your love and grace down upon us. Bring us closer to you. And I pray for the day when the world as a whole will humble ourselves, pray, seek your face, and turn from our wicked ways, so you may hear from heaven, forgive our sins, and heal our lands. Watch over us all tonight. Keep us all safe and protected as we rest up, and give us another day on this earth so we can honor and glorify you. Thank you so much for all you've done. Thank you for this lesson tonight. And I pray that this lesson helps someone but come closer to knowing you and being that proper Christian that they want to be. We love you and thank you for everything. So this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right, the voice lasts right up to the end, y'all. I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. I know it was a little scratch. Like I say, I'm not sick at all, but for some reason my voice has been doing that little weird thing where it fades out in and out. But yes, keep yourself safe, keep yourself protected, y'all. Please pray for your kids, pray for your family, and all those things, man. Because there's a sad situation. I forgot to mention that during the broadcast. It's a very sad situation. I think it said 3 kids were killed, the 3 or 4 adults, including the shooter. Sad situation. And again, it's just when you see things like that, it's just that's the symptoms of a lack of godliness, and we becoming more and more of a godless nation, and more of these things are going to happen. So remember, always watch your back and always pray. Keep me in your prayers. I keep y'all in my prayers as well. But until next time, I love you all. Continue to watch your back and pray. I love you all. Peace.